Hey guys, I'm going to show you some barrier designs and how not to place barriers. So here's an example of how not to place a barrier. Simply just placing them down wherever you feel like without any advanced positioning. It's definitely not the prettiest of barriers. One, because it's insanely high and it just shows a lack of effort you put into tracks when you just place them down with no coordinates. So the best way to do it is to first get started with lowering your barriers to at least 0.7 to 1.0, depending on the track you're making. So if the track is intended for all vehicles, including off-road vehicles and SUVs, set your wall height to 1.0. If you're just making a race for sports cars, muscles, supers, I'd recommend 0.7 to 0.8. So here are some barrier designs. This one I'm using 3 different stunt blocks to get this 3-tone colorway, and you can set the colors to your preference. You can make this even longer by just using the bigger stunt blocks, so you can create a really long wall out of this. Another one right here, I'm just using the race barrier sections. I'm just using the 1 segments, which is more prop intensive, but you can get your own unique colorway by using one of these instead of using the preset colors that the game gives you, or the color schemes that the game gives you. So yeah, so that's designs right there. I'll come over here. I've got some more barriers to show you. I've been doing a lot of experimentation here. So this one is kind of similar to the previous one. I'm just using 2 of them stacked on top of each other to get this checkered effect. And this is the same checkered effect right here, but I'm just using all white. But there are different shades of white because the whole prop itself has minor shade differences. Here's another one right here. So I'm just using the pit lane prop sunk into the ground and is resting on top of this race stunt track piece, which I've flipped sideways so I can color this prop to all black or all gray, which is what I like to set it as. And if we come over here, got some more designs. This one's quite popular. So this just uses the stunt landing zones. One is just resting on top. It's using the edge flat piece like that. And there's another stunt landing zone just flips sideways using the flat edge on the other side. You can remove the bezel if that's not your thing. You can make it square if you wish. You just have to shift the pieces a little bit. Here we got some more designs. So we got an extremely low stunt block with a metal barrier resting on top. So keep in mind all these barriers set the height within that range I told you about. So 0.7 to 1.0. Here's another one. So you got the metal barrier with the tire wall behind it, just to give it some more depth. Keep in mind the edges, the ends of these metal barriers don't have the best hitboxes, so don't use it in places where your car may rub against it. Here's another one. So I'm just using stunt blocks, and it typically looks cleaner if the stunt blocks are sloped down into the ground on the ends. If you don't want to do that, you can cover up one of the ends with a prop. So you could probably use a haystack for an example, which can look quite nice. So sink that down like that, raise it up maybe a bit. So there you go, that's another way to end off a barrier. Got some more designs here. So I'm just using the stunt block with the stunt track flip sideways, just resting on top. So you can add a two-tone colorway to it. And this one, you just sink these garage building props. Yeah, so you sink it into the ground and you angle it a little bit so the other side doesn't pop out of the ground. And this one, this design right here is used for blocking off a road. So I'm just using the concrete barriers with the upside down tire props just behind it. And I've added some decorations around there. Here we got some curved barrier designs. So just using these pieces sunk into the ground. I'm using 3 of them so I can remove those annoying ugly holes. And we've got some concrete barriers right here. These are pretty good. Just make sure you line these up so there's no poor hitboxes, especially if a car is likely to rub up against it. And another ginormous curb barrier. I'm just using these stunt ramps. There's an even bigger version. And here are some designs where you can implement signs. So you can rest these stunt signs just on top of any kind of barrier. For this one, I'm just using a stunt track piece. These don't have the best hitbox, but they're usually okay, I guess. But if you want something with no hitboxes whatsoever, just stick with the stunt blocks. This one right here, race stunt track. These section blocks, they're all perfect with no hitboxes. But yeah, you could probably get away with this every now and then if your car is not likely to rub up against it too much in certain places. This one right here, we got a stunt sign with arrows underneath. I've just flipped this upside down so I can display just the arrows. Here's another one. So I'm just using these sand blocks right here, aligned with each other. These don't have any poor hitboxes if they're lined up correctly. They're perfect. And I'm just using a carriage sitting on top. And here we got a race stunt track flip sideways. I like to flip these sideways because there's this particular race stunt track piece, which is this one I'm holding, where it has a solid color both on the side right here and partially on this side. So I can color the prop all gray if I wish, which you can't do with a prop like this. As you can see, there's just like lines on the side. And I've just got a track piece with metal barriers on the edges, just resting upside down, which is another aesthetic. Here's another one. So you can get quite creative with your decorations and signing. So we got these stunt blocks right here, 2 of them, and another stunt block slanted with a sign resting on top. And got another block right here as the divider. Here's another one. This doesn't have the best hitbox, so I only use this in places where your car is not likely to rub up against it. It's definitely a good one to utilize as it looks quite nice. You can play with the colors as well and get some unique color schemes out of it. That's about it. Oh, what's this over here? I was just experimenting with a bit of a bezel. So, and what's this over here? Oh yeah, I was just experimenting with Apex designs right here. This one's really prop intensive, but I was just using these tire stacks resting on top of these stunt blocks. Not the biggest fan of that red thing on the edge. I could probably get rid of that, but it does look quite nice, I must say. You could probably use templates to duplicate these around tracks if you got a really nice design like this. So I'm in another save in the creator at the moment. Got some more designs. Here's another bezeled stunt block barrier you can use. So I'm just using 3 here with a bit of a bezel. And Here's some more over here, just playing around with the stump blocks again. So I've got this stump block underneath with one just resting on top. And you can always change the colors here. This one I think is kind of pointless. It's too prop intensive for what it's worth. But I was just playing around there. Here's another one. So you've got the stump block with the dynamic pieces resting on top. So those dynamic pieces are... Let me try and find it for you guys. Yeah, it's these right here. These destructible walls. You can just sink those down. And here's another one. Just using the concrete barriers aligned with no hitboxes. That's very important that you get no hitboxes with these, because these are really difficult to line up. You got to make sure each barrier going forward is behind and by a substantial amount. Otherwise hitboxes can happen quite easily with those.